Old Tom Comes Home. Narrated by Otis Gyrie. Far from the nearest city, nestled in a grassy valley resting between a pair of oak and maple-studded ridges, an old man and his son lived alone on a farm. The boy's mother had died earlier that spring, and neither he nor his father handled the loss very well. The boy, once playful and carefree, was now sullen and withdrawn. The father, formerly a gentle and patient man, at once became bitter and cruel. With no one else to talk to, the following months, especially the dark, cold winter days, were lonely and dreadful. Each night, come supper time, the son turned to his father. "Father," the boy said, "why must we live so far from the city? I'm lonely and would like to meet a friend my own age." His father said nothing in return and continued eating his bread and butter. The old man's indifference weighed heavily on his son. Each day his father treated him this way. The boy lost a bit more of his strength, until he was so feeble he could barely stand. One day the boy did not appear for breakfast or do his morning chores. When the old man noticed this, he flew into a rage, eager to punish his son. Intending to teach him a lesson, he snatched his leather whipping belt from the far wall and approached the boy's bedside. There, he took one look at his son, and he fell to his knees. The boy was white as a ghost. The old man dropped his belt. Its dingy, corroded buckle struck the hardwood floor with a clatter. The old man tipped the boy's chin. At that moment, grief and compassion overtook the old man, and he promised he would no longer be cruel. "My son," the old man said, "we must live here and not the city. I too am lonely, but must work this farm to earn our living." His son said nothing in return. The boy just lay there, a whisper of a breath escaping his lips. The old man reached out to touch the boy's hand and found his son's skin as cold as ice. That same day, the old man set out for the city to fetch a doctor. Try as he might, he could not find a physician who would travel so far from town to see his son. So the old man packed his things and prepared to leave. Just then, a sign caught his eye. "Kittens," it read, "free to a good home." The old man knew just what to do. The boy was still in bed, pale as ever, when his father arrived back from the city with a tiny black kitten under his arm. Upon seeing that cat, the boy smiled and regained much of his strength. After much thought, he named the kitten Tom, after his grandfather. From then on, the boy and his cat were inseparable. "Come along, Tom," the boy would say. "It's time to milk the cows." And Tom would come running, his tail swishing behind him. Wherever the boy went, the cat followed. Things went on like that for some time, until one spring, many years later. Then, in the night, Tom disappeared. The next morning, the old man found feathers strewn about and 3 chickens dead. The old man struggled to retain his composure. He was careful to keep his promise to his son, however, and he kept his temper. "You know, my boy, I love you so," the old man said, "but if he kills one more, the cat must go." The boy listened and nodded. Tom, his gray, flecked fur now revealing his age, sat purring in his master's lap. The next night, Tom vanished again. In the morning, the old man again found feathers strewn about and 3 more chickens dead. He took a deep breath. The old man remembered his promise to his son and remained calm. Just then, however, he caught a glimpse of his boy sitting on the porch. The murderous feline sprawled leisurely across his lap. What nerve, the old man thought. Look at him, lying there, his belly full of my chickens, as if not one the wiser. The old man felt his face burning with rage. He approached the boy. "You know, my boy, I told you so," the old man said. "You killed once more. The cat must go." The son did not bother to look up. He simply listened and nodded. Tom sat purring in his master's lap. The next day, while the boy was sleeping, the old man hauled the cat to town. He carried him across the river and through the woods. Then he turned him loose and left him there. Tom just sat on his haunches, licked his paws, and watched the old man go. The old man got home just before dark and saw his son sitting on the porch. And there beside him was Tom. The graying cat was napping in the boy's lap as if he'd been there all along. The old man could not believe his eyes. At first he was confused. Then he was angrier than ever. Before long he forgot the promise he had made many years ago. He turned to his son with a scowl. "My boy, that cat must love you so," the old man said cruelly. "But if he kills again, old Tom must go. Drowned in a sack filled with stones, that cat will call the river home." The boy stared at his boots. He listened and nodded. Tom purred and purred. The next day the old man found 9 chickens dead. The old man was furious. He stomped into his son's bedroom, an old burlap sack in hand. Finding the cat asleep at the foot of the bed and wasting no time, he grabbed old Tom, stuffed him in a sack, and drove to the city. There he pulled up alongside the river, found some big rocks, and put them in the sack. He tied the sack, cat, stones and all, and tossed it in the river. Then the old man turned and left him there. As before, the old man reached home before dark and saw his son sitting on the porch, with old Tom there atop his lap. The old man was stunned. The cat was soaked to the bone and licking its paws, but it was old Tom all right. The cruel old man had seen enough. "My boy, that cat must love you so," the old man boomed. "He should be in a sack that's filled with stones. This time, in a hole 3 feet below, that cat will call his gravesite home." The boy listened and nodded. He stroked the cat. Tom purred and purred. The cruel old man determined that the boy kill the cat immediately. He handed his son an axe and sent him to the woods to find a stump. The boy was reluctant, but more than that, he was afraid of his father. So he took the axe, scooped up his cat with a spare hand, and trudged dejectedly into the woods. There he laid old Tom on a stump. Then he raised the axe and let it fall, with tears streaming down his face. He chopped the cat beneath the eyes. Seeing what he had done, the boy turned pale and walked away, dragging the axe behind him. Back at the farm, the boy found his father on the porch and sat beside him. His father said nothing, but continued rocking in his chair. Minutes passed, maybe hours. They didn't speak a word to each other. Then, suddenly, the boy jumped to his feet and spoke. "Father," he said, "look, old Tom's come home." The old man looked out to the road, and there was the cat, trotting out of the woods and into the drive, the bloody upper half of his head in his mouth, chopped beneath the eyes.